Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Again, man, we have got a great guest. In fact, we have two great guests. If you didn't see the last episode that we had, my good buddy and partner, Nick Roop, wasn't with us because he was ill. But look who I have here with us right now.
I'm back. I'm back, Barry, and very excited to hear more about our guest, John, over at Grand Canyon Brewing. He's had a tremendous amount of success going from service to success in the brewing world. Can't wait to hear more about his journey.
Guys, I'm not kidding you. This guy is really interesting. Just a hard charger, doesn't accept no, powers through every impossible bridge or blockade that is in his way like it's nothing. So with that said, before we introduce you to John, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell. Let's get started. All right, John.
Thanks for that great intro, Barry.
You deserve it, man.
I appreciate it.
Guys, John owns a company called Grand Canyon Brewery. I won't say it for him, but I'll say it for me. I'm super impressed. I mean, he's got a really big operation. Nick and I got introduced to him. I think that Nick's intern might have found him, and we were lucky enough to have him respond. And when we spoke to him, we just thought, man, this guy is like, he's a hard charger. He's an everyday guy who just has taken his success from being in the Navy and, made an incredible success for himself, his family, his employees. I know he's got a lot to talk about. Nick, why don't you talk a little bit about how did you wind up finding John to begin with?
It's funny. So John, I'm not even sure if we've spoken about this yet, but hashtag veteran owned, I will tell you, is absolutely incredible. If you're not following on Instagram, I highly recommend you do. It's a great place to find and connect with other veteran owned businesses to ensure that you're supporting those that have ultimately written a check that they're willing to cash, right, with their life. So absolutely fantastic place there. And Barry, to that point, I'd love to just kind of dive in. John, you got such an amazing story there. I'd love to just have you share just a bit about your business as it stands today, how it came to be, and maybe some lessons learned along the way.
Hopefully we got a couple hours in this podcast, Nick, because it's going to take me a while to get through all that for sure. Especially as dated as I am, right? Joining the military in 2002 and getting out in 2006. There's been a long time from end of service to everything I went through to have what I have today, right, in 2022. Yeah. So it did start with reading Rich Dad Poor Dad while I was sitting on Kaneohe Bay Marine Corps base in Hawaii, being in the Navy, reading that book and learning about Robert's journey through the Marine Corps and then his rich dad, and it just ignited everything I had in me. So I thought I was going to do 20 years prior to reading that book. I was 100% sure. I read that book and put it down, and I knew I was getting out of the Navy and I was going to start a business. I got into Amway Quick Start while I was there in Kaneohe Bay and started thinking, oh, this would be I'll do business this way. And I just ended up very fortunate. Got out of the military and showed up to Williams, Arizona, and bought a gift shop in downtown Williams as an owner carry from an Air Force veteran. Slept on the floor of this facility and got a gift shop going. Fast forward a little past that, in 2006, after I got out, I met an owner next door that had a for sale sign on a business called Cruisers Route 66 Cafe. And this Marine Corps veteran was stationed down K-Bay. So how lucky was I that I was stationed at the same place, but he was there in Vietnam. I was there present day, and it's like nothing changed, and it didn't. It was the same barracks, same housing, same beaches, same problems, right? So we got to chat about those, became friends, and the owner carried that property and sold it to me. Zero down, owner carry. My brother and I went in partners and bought that business. And Cruisers Cafe continued to live on, but I knew it wasn't enough. And I think it's that veteran drive, right? And I also questioned myself, what was my sense of purpose? at that point, I wasn't happy with where I was in life. Here I am with cheeseburgers, French fries, milkshakes, and I'm like, this isn't me. Instead, I went from working on military aircraft and serving overseas. We got deployed to Bahrain and Diego Garcia, and you knew you had this sense of purpose. All of a sudden, I'm flipping cheeseburgers, and it wasn't it. And I came up with the idea, Grand Canyon Brewing Company, looked at the websites that were available, Grand Canyon Brewery, Grand Canyon Distillery, Grand Canyon Coffee. I pitched a gentleman in town, and he gave me $500,000 on a handshake. So 24 years old, here I am. Guy gives me $500,000 check, and I could have just disappeared and jetted like any 23-year-old would have that was in their right mind. But instead, I was like, we can make this work, right? So looked on eBay, found a brew system. You wouldn't believe it. I still never brewed a batch of beer today outside of a homebrew setup. And it was everything I learned inside the military, leadership, right? The number one lesson you can take with you is they teach you to lead from the front. They teach you how to delegate and bootstrap. And I took all those lessons and made it work. I bought a system on eBay. I did my research, or you can call it recon, and found, probrewer.com, went through, found brewers, hired those brewers, got my system installed, started a brewery. Grand Canyon Brewing Company was born. A lot more to that story, obviously, but we got into real estate. So we have, single family rentals, 13 of those, a little apartment complex. I do a couple Airbnbs, and I make sure that we own all our own properties at our locations except for one. So,
wow. It's truly impressive, John. And so to your earlier point, that's not been without turbulence, right? Like you've had, to your point, to bootstrap, right? Like, yeah, the $500,000 check is nice, but obviously there's a lot of overhead that comes with the business. And so how was the first few years as you were like entering in? What was that like for you?
So all those years were fun, right? Because they were definitely, it was the unknown, the great unknown. Here you are. My life was really structured in the military. You knew exactly your schedule. You knew what time you had to be there. It was a day. It was the same thing every day, right? And here, all of a sudden, I'm free and trying to figure out this new business world that I had no business being in, or the support. So it was, I got to find these people that want to mentor me, right? Was a big one. Found myself a mentor, took me under his wing, helped me out. This is the gentleman that wrote me the $500,000 check. But it was trials and tribulations and sleepless nights as far as I wasn't making any of my Social Security or Medicare payments in the first quarter when I started my business, when I took over the restaurant, because I didn't know I had to. And then so now you get this big fancy letter from the state and the IRS, and then all of a sudden my money is gone out of my bank account. And I'm like, well, I need a bookkeeper. I got to build a team. Robert Kiyosaki's talked about it. Here I was. I broke, his rules. So we can go through a bunch of those. We can go through lawsuits. We can go through IRS audits or Fed audits, things that would keep you up at night and scare most people. Once you've seen military life and what goes on, you could be cool, calm, and collective and make decisions, methodically.
I think that one of the things that impresses me about you, John, is I'm not saying this to make you feel good, but you're just, like I said, you're a real affable kind of every guy kind of a guy. And when somebody from the outside looks at you, I'm sure that they probably think, hey, this is somebody to admire, but they have no idea a lot of the challenges that you've been through. You were sharing with Nick and I earlier that got a bomb dropped on you this morning and you're like, all right, well, another bomb, let's just, power through it, and I think that's one of the things I've managed, hundreds, if not thousands of people in my career. And I always tell people, I've met people that I just knew were going to be hyper successful when I met them, only to have them fall by the wayside a couple months later because they just didn't have the wherewithal. They didn't have that attitude that failure is not an option. And I can tell you that I've also seen people that had that attitude that weren't that great, that wound up being wildly successful because to them, failure was not an option. And I know because I'm also a veteran, a Marine Corps veteran, that's the way I powered through my adulthood. It's like, I don't have anybody to turn to that's going to save me. I had a heart attack 4 years ago, and I drove myself to the emergency room. I was on the freeway when this happened, and my doctor, when he finally got to talking to me, and they were getting ready to put a stent in my heart, he's like, I have never heard of somebody driving themselves to the emergency room while they had a heart attack. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Sit around and wait for somebody to save me? You know, so I love that about you. And I love hearing all these, you know, these things that you had to go through to get here, because, you know, you are hyper successful right now. At least that's what I would call you. But I know that, to Nick's point, you know, you could burn through $500,000 real quick, man, if you're not deadly focused on what you're trying to do. So with that said, you know, when you, I know that you've told us together that you felt like, you know, this is the training that you got in the Navy is what gave you that kind of a can-do attitude and, hey, no challenge I can't overcome. Were there ever any times where it was just like such a challenge that you came that close to like giving up, or was it always like, you know, I'm not giving up unless I'm 6 feet underground?
Yeah, there is no return, right? So, and you're talking about, I got a lot in common with most guys. I feel like I do. I feel like that E4 mafia, ADD, full of caffeine, drinking, you know, till the sun's coming up, and then doing it all over again the next day. That's who I was. A little more on my backstory, you know, I got the broken home. I didn't graduate from high school. I got a GED. I wasn't sure what I was going to do in life. I was doing dumb shit where the law was after me. And I ended up going to the Marine Corps, the Army, Navy, said, who can get me on the first plane out of here? I'm in. And everybody had these hoops I had to jump through because I had a GED. And the Navy was, hey, you could be gone in 2 weeks. Are you serious? Undesignated. I'm so glad I didn't go in undesignated. I would have been in trouble, because I found out what happens to undez once they're in there, right? They get stuck in different shops and garbage jobs, and they sell you this, oh yeah, you get to just try different things and see what you like. And it sounded great. Good news is that it went really quick from basically MEPS to, hey, you're joining. Got the call on 4th of July. I was gone on July 22nd, and a slot had opened up for an airframer. I had loved airplanes growing up as a kid, knew I wanted to be a pilot, just didn't have the money. And so, yeah, went in undesignated, right? I've been writing these notes down because there's a million things I believe, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm the dumbest dude at the table every day, right? I hire great people, put people that are better than you are in front of you, and that's it. And these guys, they run my show. 270 employees or so, I think, is where we're sitting at today. And it's not because of me. It's because of leadership. And I attribute all the success to the military, period. And it probably gets old when people hear it and they're like, oh, yeah, it's so cliche. Just throw it. It's the military that did it for you. But it's the truth. It's the reason I fly the Navy flag in my parking lot. It's the reason I have these shadow boxes behind me. And it's the reason I try to get a lot of my employees. I'm probably the best recruiter the Navy has. Or Marine Corps. I should have joined the Marines. After being on a Marine Corps base, you know, the camaraderie Marines have is second to none. So with that being said, I wanted to jump through some of these that I have on this list, but the defeated and you just can't give up, losses are no such thing. And Jocko wrote about it in his book, right? The Navy SEAL, obviously, for those that are unfamiliar, but you could lose somebody in your platoon and these guys had to go to work the next day. And when I read that book, I was like, how powerful is that? Here I am worried about the CPA this morning just fired me as a client, and I got 3 months to figure out my bookkeeping, and I got to figure out how I'm going to, you know, where I'm going to move all my CPA work to and my payroll for 200 plus employees. And that's a lot to be dropped on your shoulders at a 10 o'clock meeting where I had zero clue. I thought I was just going in to look at my quarterlies. And no, here you go. We're out. We can't do this no more. You're too big. It's too hard. We'll give you 3 months. We'll help you figure it out. And you're like, sweet. But you just know you never give up, right? You'll kill me first. And I think that's a lot of employees know I've got that type of drive. And I think everybody else has it as well that's been in the military, most of us. If you got that attribute, then business is nothing for you. We can go through in a lawsuit with partners, right? Those are sleepless nights where somebody's trying to get somebody to come in and put a conservatorship into your company, and you're no longer in control. But guess what? I fought like hell, and guess what happened? I won. And when you win, it's just a cap in your hat that you're like, hey, military gave me that. 100%, right? That type of drive where you can't stop me or drop me. I'm coming for you. Even though I was an airframer, the coolest thing I did was ASF, armed security for P3s. And I did a whole whopping 3-week course with Marines. And outside of that, so I don't have the excuse, right? I think an infantry guy or somebody in that type of MLS in the military they should be way better off than me. I think they got the mindset for sure. They just got to find out what business they can get into and what they can do. I'm going to run through these chapters real quick. I thought was kind of cool. Intel, right? Every day these guys work trying to figure out intel. That's the military's job, is to know what's in front of us and be smart about it, right? We just don't walk into things blindly. If you do that, then you're an idiot. And the same way goes, you'd look like Russia today, right? Obviously, somebody had bad intel. And no different than business where, hey, I do intel. I know where I'm going, my markets, who I'm going to meet with, who's leading the market, how much competition I'm going to have, and is it worth wasting my money, or should I go somewhere else? Is there an easier path, right? Or just, hey, I'll throw my hands up. You win the lawsuit. Here's the check. Sorry I did that to you. Have a great day. Those happen, and working with others and teamwork, huge. I love the old Army of One adage, right? But that's obviously, I think that blew up in their face back in the day, because forever I'd tell that to people. What are you, an Army of One? And here, working with other people is key. In the military, you're nobody by yourself, right? And even if you are a Navy SEAL or you're a MARSOC, or there's 13 people behind you, typically, I think is the average in support for one guy. And that's no different in this industry, brewing. It's no different in real estate. It's no different in restaurants or doctors or so on and so forth. Bootstrapping's huge. Busting your butt. As an E1, you figure that out pretty quick, right? So, and I went in as an E1 and made it to the good E4 Mafia, but it was a ton of hard work to get my way up that ladder and prove yourself. If you're willing to put on your boots and you polish them and make sure you're good to go, and lifting yourself up by your boots is a real thing. You know, I know people say it's not true. It is. Hard work will get you anything you want. Do I think those opportunities come every day? Not for everybody, but if you search long enough and get told no 100 times, some asshole out there will tell you yes. You're like, I like this guy's attitude. We'll do, I'll say yes. I'll sell him this building, owner carry zero down. When you look at our 14 commercial properties, only one has been bought with bank money. Everything else originated as owner carries, zero down or minimal down, or work for trade. And it was selling a dream, selling somebody that, hey, I need to have this, and here's why I need to have it, and here's why you need to sell it to me. And here you could be the bank and make 8-10% on your money, carry the note, and I'm going to bust my butt inside this building, and you can have it all for free if I fail. It was a no-brainer for all these guys in a town of Williams, you know. And here we are in this little town outside the gateway. It's the gateway to the Grand Canyon. Half this town was boarded up when I came here as a kid. And that's why opportunity was here. I saw it. You polish the turd, right? I turned that turd into a diamond, and it is what it is. And I feel bad for those in Williams that I think this place was a turd. It was just unfortunate that Route 66, the I-40, killed Williams, right? It wasn't me. And it took a while for this town to find its identity. And they got lucky. The railroad ran through the middle of the town here, and they basically refurbished and built that railroad back up, taking people to the Grand Canyon, dropping them off on their main, right on their doorsteps. But nobody saw the opportunity. Nobody saw the opportunity to make better food. Nobody saw the opportunity to put a brewery here. Nobody saw the opportunity to build a great gift shop or pick up buildings for $125,000 that are now $750,000 downtown. So,
John, one of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times is the mentorship, right? You were able to seek that out. If someone else is in that position, what are some things that you'd be looking for in a mentor, knowing the things that you know now?
Obviously, you don't want to take advice from somebody that makes less than you, right? So the one thing I've always looked for is, what do you do? How much do you make? What have you done in the past? And beggars can't be choosers. But so if they're in business and you can learn something from them, then take that advice. But I think the biggest one for me was I saw this old man in a tank top with tattoos. Well, hey, I got tattoos and I love tank tops, but here he is painting a fence, and you wouldn't think he was worth 10 cents. And once I found out who he was and what he did, and he taught me about real estate and business, and I still call him today, and he still invests in projects I have today. You need to find one of those. those guys, right? We can't do it all on our own. But those that don't have mentors, you can do what I did when I was in the military, which is pick up a book. And it's simple. And it's the same thing I do now. I try to mentor my employees. I have an Air Force veteran that works for me, and I give Jake books whenever he needs a book. I give him advice when he asks, and I give it to him with the best intentions that I want him to make more money than I do. So I can be like, hey, I actually helped that dude. That's pretty cool that he's making all this money. So constantly, I think somebody that's pushing you, driving you to be better, helping you educate, giving you people to talk to. And I think we're in a different place now. 06 compared to now, all this content's free. Your podcasts, Rich Dad Radio, Grant Cardone, the real estate guys, Tom Wheelwright for tax advice. I mean, you can get all this information for free. Really, YouTube could be your mentor, and that's all you really need now, right? You don't need a fancy degree or somebody holding your hand.
Well, and I think also, because as you just pointed out, John, in this day and age where we're at now with the internet, social media, education, it's never been easier to insert yourself into a clique of veterans or people that could potentially be a mentor to you. Nick reached out to me. He's in Vermont. Nick and I talk every single week. We're like best friends, and I have never met him personally. We have never actually shook hands before or shook hands because of this day and age that we're in. He was looking for a guy like me to be able to refer business to. I was like, I'm looking for a guy like you too to refer business to. Let's get together and talk. And one thing led to another. We started brainstorming. So, and that's kind of where the whole, idea of this live stream / podcast that we have for the Veterans Wealth Network was birthed. It's like, let's try and bring some good content to people that we wish we would have had back when we were young. What else you got on your list there, John, that because you told me, you have a list. We touched on, bootstrapping. What else do you got there?
So, I mean, some of the key ones that I would PT and workouts, right? That's something I never stopped. Taking care of your body first, because you can't take care of anybody else until you take care of yourself. That's a huge one for me. Don't regret my past. So even though I might have done dumb things and got in trouble when I was in the military, at least I never lost rank. But I didn't let it take me down and be like, oh, I'm done here. Screw this military. I don't want to be here anymore. Coming to work every day with the mindset that, hey, I'm here. I signed up for it. Let's make the best of it and do the best I can. And then taking that, I don't care if I worked at McDonald's. For the longest time, one of the stories I have is I don't have hand tattoos because if I had to get a job at McDonald's, it's not beneath me. And for the first time ever on the 16th, I could get my hands tattooed. And everybody's like, why? I was like, McDonald's will hire me now with hand tattoos. So at this point, I might as well go get them done because I want them done. And everybody's like, got that same reaction, laughing, right? So here I am. I think just not letting those things bring you down or bringing that to work and making you, basically not operate at the level you should is something I don't. Sense of purpose, we've talked about. I think veterans all the time got to find their sense of purpose. And what mine became, because I said, hey, it wasn't flipping burgers, it wasn't brewing beer. It's taking care of 270 people and their families, right? All these people rely on me. We have the wildest Christmas parties. And you invite these families and they show up here and you see smiles and happiness. And not every employee's here forever, right? But we have a lot that have been here from day one. And to see those guys and see what we've grown from into and where we're headed, the future is phenomenal. And that's my sense of purpose now. That's what I wake up for every day. I tattooed it on my chest where it's business first. And a lot of people are like, oh, not your family? And I'm like, no, my family is everybody that works for me. And without those people, my family has nothing. So I got to make sure I take care of those guys as well. On that list, just continue is I got OPSEC, what's selling, right? So using operational security and find out what everybody else is doing and how to make it work, following trends. I think it's pretty simple that you can translate military service into. We're all fighters. And the fighter side is even the Air Force fights, right? Nothing against you Air Force guys. And I get to do that, poke fun at my Air Force distiller. He's the head of operations for my distillery. And even though he did 8 years and and step foot in Afghanistan and Iraq where I didn't, I still get to poke fun at him because he was in the Air Force. But we're all fighters. And so that fighting mentality leads into those IRS, the lawsuits, the audits, bad partners, rogue employees. And fighting in sense, I've always thought I'm this fighter. I loved it in high school. That's why I got kicked out. That's why I ended up getting a GED. And I got in trouble in the military fighting as well. But it turned into life was all about fighting, but not physical. It doesn't need to be physical. And eventually you got a lot to lose, so you stop fighting. But you utilize it for things you love or people you care about or business, right? And once you realize, hey, this business is very important to me, you don't stop fighting. And if you can use that mindset you had, you'll win. I think also education, ton of free stuff for vets that are above and beyond a civilian counterpart. Yes, they all have the same access to YouTube, but I don't think a civilian counterpart is going to come click on this veteran wealth network and listen to this podcast, right? No. A civilian would, a veteran would, and they're going to get this valuable information. I can tell you I'd be more likely if two people approached me on my email today and one was a civilian and the other was this veteran, I can tell you who I'm going to dedicate my time to. And unless he showed me he wasn't energized or about the life, then I would contact the next person, but I would help the veteran out. Obviously, you can use your GI Bills, invoke rehab, and items like that. One of the most favorite things ever in boot camp when they were beating us down, they called making it rain. They stuck one guy on a blanket in the middle, gave him a pillow and ice cold Coca-Cola, and he had to walk around. And I remember him just devastated that he had to do this, and it's because they caught him cheating in sit-ups or something stupid. And have a Coke and a smile, shipmate. And it will stick with me forever. Did that guy quit the next day? No. You suck it up. You just carry on and run up. So I also think can't play politics. Utilize that same aspect, right? Military is not allowed to play politics. You shouldn't do it in business as well. We're seeing this right now with all these woke companies. This is stuff I wrote 7-8 years ago that I'm reading to you now on just mindset ideas, and I loved it. I serve everybody here. We're in a liberal town of Flagstaff, and we're in a conservative city of Williams. And I don't play politics. I don't put signs out there. I don't talk who I'm voting for on my Facebook page. Business-wise, I don't endorse anything, even if it's a local judge. And it's very unfortunate, but you have to draw those lines.
I always tell people I can't afford to have an opinion.
Oh, I love it. And
my clients are, they're all over the spectrum, man. My friends, even then I try to stay away. The great way to put a wedge between you and people is to start talking about politics. But yeah, sorry.
If you're in the bar business, I'm a pro at that, right? No religion and no business or no politic talk at all at the bar. And you want to see people get rowdy, and you'd be amazed how many people bring it up at a bar. And you just think they would be smart enough not to. Another one I would have is obviously failure is taught not to quit. I know that's kind of redundant. And it's pretty funny. At the end of this, I put Neanderthal businessman. If I can do it, you can do it. I always revert back to I'm the dumbest dude. It's all muscle, right? What do they say? There's smart Marines and there's strong Marines. That's why I would have been a better Marine. Not very smart.
Well, I can tell you, you're one of my favorite guests so far, John. I'm not just saying that because you're on here with us, but what I'm really was happy to hear is this list that you came up with, that you created this like 7 years ago. So what that said to me, and it should say this to anybody who's watching this, is, if you, and John mentioned this earlier, you got to have a plan to be able to execute the plan, right? You've got to have a target, man. If you don't have a target, how are you ever supposed to hit it, And I love that you were writing this stuff down 7 years ago, probably even longer than that. Is there anything else on that list, some gems there that we want to share?
There's a dozen more. I think one point I'd like to bring up, though, is I took the mindset when I got out of the military that I could own anything, because I don't have to be smart enough to be a doctor to own a doctor's office, right? I think that's a great one. I don't have to be smart enough to own an attorney's office. Or a bar. I don't need to know anything about a bar. I can own it and rent it out or lease it out or hire people. A brewery is that one, right? Breweries are everywhere. Successful breweries are left and right now. And after seeing the boom, catching catching the trend before it happened was the awesome part, right? In 06, there was people with breweries, but they weren't as hot as 2014, 15, 16. So getting ahead of that wave was huge. Dang, I lost my train of thought. Look at that. I told you I'm dumb. See, it was all those years of marijuana in the back of a car in high school.
John, one of the things I was going to ask, so you mentioned resources before, right? The internet, the mentors, being able to really like pull on content. I think content, to your point, like is all around us. Really, like what people are oftentimes looking for is context, right? And so as you're out in the world, are there resources that you personally have used as a veteran-owned business that you would say, like, man, I wish I would have known about that 5 years ago, right? Something that you could, if I was starting out, for instance, day one, what's the thing that you'd point me to?
Yeah, it depends what industry you want to be in, right? If you already know where you want to go, then I would look up podcasts online that are specific to the industry you're looking at, right? Mm-hmm. And whether that is restaurants, real estate, or hair and nail salons, they're out there. There's tons of this free information out there. I was going to read off my list of stuff I listen to on podcast wise, but mine's specific to my own, well, I'll have to open it now. So you put me on the spot. So that is Peter Schiff, big one, just guys, analytics and numbers. And he's a little dry to listen to, but it is daily stuff on consumer price index and how it's going up and how does that relate to me? And you've got to start deciphering that information, right? So you got to be you have to understand what he's saying and how it could relate and what you got to do to adjust to The Art of War. Essentially was another great read, right? So how do I get ahead of this before it beats me?
Well, Peter Schiff, for those of you that don't know it, he's one of the founders of PayPal, right? Along with Elon.
Yeah, big boy money. So Wheelbarrow Profits with Jake and Gino. Gary Vee is huge, right? Gary Vee is a big, high power and inspirational. I don't like how he tells people to be broke, just be happy. Obviously, I'm not there for that. I am there for some of his other stuff that he, motivational, and seeing him live is pretty awesome. Got to do that. Investing in real estate with Clayton Morris is awesome. Rich Dad Radio is my favorite. I'm always caught up with his podcast, even though he's obviously he's more conservative. He's and those come out when he's doing it, but he's definitely non-biased and he talks to everybody like they're me, break it down to the easiest level so I can learn from you. And whether that's cryptocurrency, things he doesn't know about, but he brings on the smartest people in the industry and you get to hear these guys. And when you hear them and you like them, 9 times out of 10, those guys have free content on their websites. They have free content via podcasts or YouTube. And those are the things I jump on and that's how I found Peter Schiff. Carrying on with that list is TED Business is an easy one to listen to. Tony Robbins. The Real Estate Guys is huge. So the Real Estate Guys is probably one of my favorites that I go to. Wealthability Show with Tom Wheelwright, which is Robert Kiyosaki's tax attorney or CPA. So there's a couple. And then, of course, I got the Veteran Wealth Podcast on there.
So one of the things that you consistently say also, John, is you talk about how the military really prepared you for leadership. It's, you don't need to be a doctor to be able to lead a team of doctors or to own a hospital or to be a brewer. And if those of you that are out there have never heard of Jocko Willink, Jocko is a really tremendous guy to follow. Also, he talks about extreme ownership and what it takes to assemble a team and be a part of that team. So another great one too, right?
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. And I think he's done the best at it, assembling a team. And if you can't get somebody to follow you to build your team, you're just constantly going to be left down and out, right? And when it comes to finding financing, if you can't I couldn't convince you, Barry, to loan me money and come on board and believe in my dream, you're never going to write me a check. And without funds, which are the lifeblood of a company, especially if you don't have them up front and they're hard to find, it's even more difficult. So you've got to definitely have that skill, right? And everybody has one. It's one of my favorite things to tell people too, a mouth. And you should listen twice as much as you talk. That's why you have 2 ears. But at the same time, if you can learn to sell and sell yourself and also make fun of yourself, right? I learned that in the military. I make fun of people all day, but I can take it on the chin just like anybody else. So that's why I know I can say it. Yeah, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. Everybody finds it funny. I might not be, but it's just that self-play. But you have to be able to sell yourself. You have to get people to believe in you. And anybody that was in the military learned enough of that leadership skill that they're already a step ahead of anybody else trying to start at the same point and get into business. So I can ramble.
Nick, is there anything I've been doing a lot of the talking here besides John? Is there anything that you want to go over with John? I can see us doing this again with you, John, because you do have a lot to offer, but we want to be respectful of your time too. What about you, Nick? Is there anything that you want to throw in there, brother?
No, I mean, everything that you're touching on, John, is I would absolutely agree with, right? It's funny, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm actually sending it out right now to all of my clients. It's the book of the quarter for them. I'm a huge fan of it, read it myself several times now. But to your point, like finding a mentor, it's something that I've always sought out myself, looking for folks a couple chapters ahead of me in order to draw inspiration from and to have that sounding board. I think that in and of itself is critical, having folks that like, and trust, and that have been there, right? If they haven't been there, they're not afraid to tell you they don't have the answers, rather than just pulling something out of thin air that sounds good, right? And it's clear, like you've obviously had quite a successful transition. I know it's not without bumps along the way, but the story, I think that if anyone has a takeaway, I think it's mindset and perseverance, right? You've clearly persevered. You clearly have put your neck on the line. All that reward has not been without risk, right? That's not lost. Hopefully that's not lost on anyone else either. Where you started from versus where you are now, it's just an inspiration to see. So I really appreciate you taking the time to connect and, again, putting this out there for veterans to have that resource and provide them inspiration for their growth and their path forward.
I know that you don't usually need help, John, because it sounds to me like you got the tiger by the tail half the time. But is there anything that any of us could do to help you that are watching this video right now? Like,
it's funny you say that, Barry. I just hired a consultant today that's going to come in and look at my business from a 10,000 foot view. And this gentleman is, he ran all the Denny's in the U.S. and helped put those together. Originally as the franchise, right? So he's an older gentleman, Black Eyed Peas. He's done local brewery work. And so he's a master in the industry. And here I am. I'm always constantly wanting to grow and do better, right? The only way I could do that is find people better than me. So this consultant will come in, give me a 10,000 foot view. And guess what? I'm going to get criticism. 100% I'm going to get criticism. He's not going to like the way I do things because I fly by the seat of my pants. I do what I want. And for the first time ever, I'm going to have somebody being like, hey, I don't think you're doing that right. Maybe you should try this. And I'll take it as advice and I'll try it, right? So, yeah. And so you talk about giving back. I think everybody in the military understands how to train somebody and we have to give back, right? So my goal is, as an E4, was to make sure the E3 could take my job so possibly I can make it to E5, right? It's no different here. I want everybody to be better than me. And so they can take my job now. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. I'm ready to retire, sit on a beach. And so it's constantly like, hey, who's taking my job? And if you look at my wall of books over here, there's probably over 100 business books. And every time I buy them in paperback rather than audiobooks or read them online, because I want to make sure I can share it. I tape my business card on the inside. I give back to anybody that wants it. And if I don't get it back, oh, well, I'll buy another one. And you talked about giving the Rich Dad Poor Dad books. I do at least a dozen a year. I just buy them, put them on the bookshelf, and hopefully people read them and it changes their lives, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, John, I'd like to, would like to check in with you and see how this worked out with the business consultant at some point, maybe have you back on, and also tell you that, and the audience, whoever might be watching this, that Nick and I are, we're looking for people like John. We're looking for, veteran-owned businesses. We're looking for veterans who want to own their own business, veterans who kind of feel like they need some sort of mentorship or some sort of guidepost to head towards. So if you know somebody that you think we should be talking to, that you think would have a really great message for anybody watching this, man, we would really love an introduction. John, I know you know a whole bunch of people, so please keep us in mind for that. Nick, is there anything you'd like to say before we say goodbye to John for today?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Always looking to continue to provide content, and always appreciating those introductions.
And if you are somebody, by the way, that isn't a veteran, that isn't active duty, but you have somebody in your life that you care about and that you love, that you feel could use this, please forward this over to them. Tell them to like our page and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Instagram. But man, John, you're just you're a beast. Love you, man. I appreciate what you're doing, and I got a feeling that you're going to be getting a visit at some. I don't drink because I'm a lunatic like you. I drank enough for everybody when I was in the Marine Corps. And I did enough partying for every single person that's watching this. So I don't drink anymore, but I can see that Nick and I are definitely going to have to make a trip to come visit you, because I would just love to meet you in person and see the operation that you've got going on there, brother.
Hey, we have a guest cabin in the parking lot. I'm more than happy to put you guys in, and obviously Nick and I can drink in the brewery, and then you guys could stumble back to your room. It's pretty nice setup.
Yeah.
I also want to say, hey, just so you guys are aware, right? I'm sure not every day you get your back patted, but it's amazing to see what you're doing for the veteran community and the brothers and sisters that like you said, sacrificed, wrote their name on the dotted line, and so they can have this opportunity, and to help them grow is pretty amazing stuff. So kudos to you to actually doing it, where I've thought about it for years and just never pulled the trigger, right? And maybe at some point, unless you just knock it out of the park, and I'm like, I can't compete with Barry and Nick. So
Dude, you don't need to compete with us. You got an open invitation. Anytime you want to talk, Nick and I want to talk to you.
Sweet. I like it, guys.
Cool.
Well, let's get you out here to Williams, Arizona, so we can show you our 3 brewery locations and cruisers along with the new distillery.
Yeah, there you go. Don't threaten me with a good time, John. Yeah, I might actually take you up on that, brother.
Awesome, guys.
Thank you so much. Nick, as always, love you, brother. John, thank you so much, man. Your presence and your expertise and your guidance and mentorship, I know, is not going unheard. But with that said, my alarm just went off. So everybody, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and hopefully we'll see you soon.